We bought a $750,000 house in Nashville just to tear it down. And no, it wasn't falling apart. It wasn't condemned. But in certain Nashville neighborhoods, the land is worth more than the house sitting on it. And this has quietly become one of the hidden ways that people are building in areas like Brentwood, Green Hills, Westmead, Franklin, and other parts of Nashville. So in this video, I'll be breaking down what it actually costs to tear down a house in Nashville, how the rebuild process works, and when this strategy makes sense and when it doesn't. Hi, I'm Heather, and I'm a realtor specializing in new construction homes in Nashville, Franklin, and the surrounding Middle Tennessee area. I help people who are moving to Nashville or who already live here navigate the home building process. To tell you a little bit more about me, I've lived in the Nashville area my whole life. My mom grew up here. My grandmother moved here from East Tennessee, I think in the late 50s, early 60s, before my mom was born. For a while, as a child, we actually lived with my grandmother in the house that my mom was raised in, the home that she had lived in her entire life. And guess what? Today, that house no longer exists. It was torn down, and there's a new home sitting in its place in a redeveloped area now known as The Nations. So when people hear me talk about tearing down homes in Nashville, it's not just a market trend to me. I've watched this city change. I've watched the neighborhoods evolve and grow. And in some ways, being a part of that process now feels like a full circle moment. So if you've been looking for land in certain areas of Nashville and you're coming up empty-handed, this teardown idea might be an option you haven't thought about yet, but something you should consider. And later in this video, I'll explain when tearing down a house is actually the wrong decision. Now, I want to clarify something. We are not going into neighborhoods and tearing down beautifully, recently remodeled homes that someone has thoughtfully updated and taken care of. Some homes are just too nice to even consider tearing down. However, not all homes are built well, and not all homes are well maintained. And not all homes can be fixed by a simple remodel. And even these same homes I'm referencing in another area of town are completely livable and acceptable. But in certain pockets of Nashville, the expectations are different. Buyers are looking for larger square footage, open layouts, taller ceilings, primary suites on the main level, bigger kitchens, outdoor living, larger lots. And when a home built in the 1950s or 60s or older sits on a premium lot in those areas, sometimes even a full renovation won't bring it in line to what the neighborhood now supports. It's not about erasing the past. It's about understanding what the land can support today. It's about an opportunity and a vision. So let's talk numbers. What is the cost to tear down a house in Nashville? In our experience, we typically budget somewhere in the $25,000 to $30,000 range to have the builder handle that for you. And if you know a professional that can do it cheaper, by all means, do what makes the most sense for you. But that number can also move depending on the size of the home, how accessible the lot is, whether there are significant trees to clear while expanding the home's footprint, or how much needs to be hauled away. Every property is different, and every neighborhood can come with its own considerations. In this particular case, we purchased the property for $750,000, planned roughly $30,000 for the teardown because there was a lot to haul, and then we invested the remaining budget into building something that matched both the lot and the market. But demolition is really just one small piece of the decision. This isn't about tearing down houses just to be cool and destructive, and most importantly, it's not to be disrespectful to the home and its history. It's about looking at the structure honestly and asking, does this make sense? Is this something anyone would buy as is, or with a little work? What else is selling in the area? Is this a good investment? If the bones are strong and the layout mostly works, if you're just updating finishes and making cosmetic changes, then remodeling can absolutely be the right choice. But I've also seen a 100-year-old home that has had multiple remodels and patchwork repairs over the years, with a bad layout and load-bearing walls in places that prevent opening up the space, with a basement that had structural and moisture concerns, and even traces of asbestos in the parts of the air system. There were so many problems that even the owners were ready to tear the home down and start fresh with a new home. At some point, you're putting significant money into a structure that still won't function the way today's buyers or homeowners want it to. And a remodel can quickly turn into a money pit and still not fix all the problems. I've also worked with somebody who already owned their property for years. They tried selling it and couldn't. The land was very valuable, but the home's layout didn't work for anyone, including the owners. And prospective buyers would continue to undervalue the property because of the layout. Ultimately, they realized rebuilding on the lot that they already own gave them the home that they actually wanted without leaving the area that they loved. And sometimes starting fresh creates more value than trying to force something to work. Now, there's another category of teardown that looks very different. Sometimes we're not talking about strategy or investment at all. Sometimes we're talking about families who have lost a home to a fire or tornado damage or something completely out of their control. In some situations, parts of the structure may still be standing, maybe some of the framing, maybe portions of the foundation, but the home itself is no longer livable. And in these cases, we're not tearing down to upgrade. We're tearing down to rebuild what was lost. Sometimes that means removing what's left standing, or sometimes just digging up the home's original footers and starting fresh. And we speak about cost. When we just dig up the footers, that's going to be a much less expensive demo. There's a lot less home, a lot less to haul off. That's obviously a very different conversation about buying a home solely for land value, but it's still part of the reality of building in Tennessee. So if you're considering tearing down a house and rebuilding, here's how the process typically unfolds. First, you secure the lot. Whether you're buying it or you already own it, you'll want to review the property setbacks and easements, meaning what portion of the lot is actually buildable. You'll also want to confirm utilities, check for flood zones. A builder or realtor can help you with this process. Only after understanding what the lot can support do you move into plans and permitting. The home will need to be planned out or designed, which floor plan, elevation, structural options, and customization before securing the home. After that, we move right into site-specific plans, which are going to be ordered and submitted along with a demolition permit and a building permit request. Once those permits are approved, demolition can begin, and soon after, the new construction process will officially start. And that's when it shifts from being about what you're removing to what you're creating. If you're building in Nashville, especially in established neighborhoods, you have to think like a builder, not just a buyer. Is the lot deep enough, wide enough? Does it support the square footage the neighborhood expects? Are you building something that fits? Because tearing down a house is easy. Rebuilding wisely is where the real work happens. This path isn't for everyone. If you need move-in ready or it doesn't make sense with the area comps, this probably isn't the best fit. But it's typically right for someone who has a very specific neighborhood in mind and isn't willing to compromise on location. It can also make sense for long-term homeowners who already own their own lot, or even in unfortunate situations like losing a home to a fire or natural disaster like a tornado, you can rebuild. These decisions aren't one size fits all. They're neighborhood specific, lot specific, and situation specific. And that's why having someone walk the lot with you and guide you through the process really matters. Sometimes the hidden way to build in Nashville isn't finding land, it's recognizing the value of the land that's already there. The $750,000 home I referenced at the beginning of this video actually is the same property featured in my last luxury home video tour. That home was built after the teardown, so you can see what the vision turned into. And you can watch that tour right here. If this was helpful, give this video a like. It really helps me to know what content to keep creating. And if you're moving to Nashville or living in Nashville and you're interested in building a new home and you want to know more about the new home construction process, please make sure to subscribe and check out my other videos for more home building tips and home tours. And if you plan to buy or build a new home in the next 30 days to 12 months, I'd love to help you. Feel free to comment below or message me to get the conversation started. And in the meantime, thanks for watching.